The Giants finished their first season 7-9. Peyton's younger brother is looking like he's our franchise quarterback, even though he threw 5 game-ending interceptions. The defense isn't that great besides Michael Strahan. Lots of expensive and strange contracts. Will be an interesting offseason. Here is the cap manager. It is glitched due to me putting Sean Williams on IR. The game took his salary out and added it to the cap. That doesn't mean I get that extra money. Basically, instead of 20 million in space, we should have around 17 next year. The offseason begins with an email about Jeff Fiegels calling it quits. Apparently, he gathered around a small group of people to announce his retirement. A little much for a punter, but we're going to make him look silly anyways. He had one of the best seasons in his career. Obviously, he has enough left in the tank to come back. If we do offer him a new contract, we'll have to eat $258K in penalties. I did give him an offer, and I decided to take advantage of the game a bit here. He wanted a 1-year deal worth close to $4.3 million to come back. Now, if you extend the years, you can split that money evenly without dropping his interest unless you add too many years. He didn't want 3 seasons, plus if you lower the bonus percentage, you can basically cut him if he regresses more than you'd expect and not have a penalty for it. I also made his contract ascending. Welcome back, Fiegels. With the retirements out of the way, we now have to decide who to bring back this year. The biggest name, Kurt Warner. He didn't have a single pass last season. It's good to have a backup like him on the team, but when he's never going to see the field, do you really need him? He's not being brought back. The third stringer, Jesse Palmer, also needed a new contract. He also didn't throw a single pass last year. We do need a backup with Warner not returning. I did consider giving him a contract, but 5 years is too long. He's not coming back. We're going to need a new backup running back soon. Ron Dane is not the future. He's not coming back. Fullback is an interesting position for once in this series. Jim Finn was given the ball as much as Ron Dane, with the skill set being a lead blocker. Why do you force him to run? Which is why I didn't want to bring him back. Then I saw how much he cost. Well, Jim Finn is coming back. We already had way too many centers on the roster, but one of them needed a contract. The best backup of the bunch, Scott Peters. I thought about bringing him back, then I noticed that his blocking is terrible. Yeah, he's not coming back. Moving on to the defensive side, the backup outside linebackers need a contract. Quincy Monk didn't get any tackles, appeared in 7 games. He's not coming back, but I did want to talk about him. He had passed away back in 2015 due to cancer, but he currently has a nephew who was drafted by the Green Bay Packers in the 2024 NFL Draft. Good luck to Jacob Monk. We have our first starter on the team with an expired contract. The weakest position on the team, I should have started Torbor over Greisen, but neither option was good. Easily replaceable. He's not coming back. Cornerback is going to be interesting next season, but this year only 1 expired contract. He was an emergency signing during the year. He's not coming back. Next up is another emergency signing at strong safety. Gray was forced into the starting role after Sean Williams' injury, but he's not coming back. The last player who needs a contract, Matt Bryant. I said we're moving on from him. We're moving on from him. He's not coming back. There are all the players not coming back. 3 starters if you count Gray, 6 backups, and one of them future Hall of Famer Kurt Warner. They'll all be hitting free agency, which is next up, but the owner wants us to focus on these 3 players. Okay, well, that's not going to happen, but we have the chance to add a big play receiver. Chris Chambers. Okay, fine, Plexico Burris. We have to sign him, right? I don't think he's ever been available in any of my other series. He has to be a Giant. That's a lot of money for a lot of years. In comparison, he signed a 6-year deal worth $25 million. We might be overpaying. We had a lot of injuries at cornerback last year. We could use some insurance. Marcus Coleman was the best player in the pool, but going into his 10th year in the league, I passed on him. I went after someone younger with more potential, Fred Smoot. Close to elite speed and coverage, solid tackling and run coverage for a defensive back. Plus, we have a chance to steal him from a division rival. He wanted a 6-year deal worth on average $1.2 million a year. This is a bargain. I didn't forget about inside linebacker. There were only 2 options and we already had one of them. TJ Slaughter is not much higher than Grayson. I'd rather take a chance on the draft. Maybe in an alternate timeline, Slaughter becomes a Pro Bowl caliber player, but it's not in this one. Now, we didn't desperately need an outside linebacker, but Claiborne interests me. He had a good season last year, a solid thumper, and pretty good in pass coverage. He would solidify one of the linebacker positions. The contract he wanted wasn't that expensive either for a player of his overall. This is another bargain in my opinion. There was one last player I was interested in at defensive end. Sean Ellis piqued my interest with how poorly Umanura played. We need a solid player opposite of Strahan. 11 sacks is a heck of a lot better than 1. Unfortunately, that's a lot of money, and we still need cap left over for the draft. I had to withdraw my offer to Ellis. Here are the 3 players that I gave offers to. Burris is the only one that's overpriced, but that doesn't mean he's not worth it. I did increase my offer for Burris from $38.71 million to an even $40. It is a balanced contract that might hurt us in the long run. I also increased the offer to Claiborne from $11.12 million to an even $12. That's also a balanced contract. In the end, overpaying worked and we now have Plexico Burris and Chris Claiborne. It's now been a week in game and Smoot hasn't signed with anyone. I decided to increase his original offer from $7.26 million, which is what he originally wanted, before asking for $9.07 million. I decided to go as high as $8.5 million and he disappeared. To our roster, we now have 4 solid corners on the team. We're not done yet. We do need a backup quarterback. There were still a lot of decent quarterbacks available, and you already know who I want. I want to be a little Batch again. He's not very good, but we don't need him to be as a backup. Originally, I wanted to give him an offer, but I didn't want him for 7 years. I moved on. As a Dolphins fan, Damon Huard should have been the Miami Dolphins quarterback after Dan Marino retired. He was a decent quarterback. He could be a solid backup. He wanted too much money for his first year. I figured we could find the rookie just as good. Now before we head over to the draft, I need to give Plexico his proper number. That's better. Also, we had only $5 million in cap space. Releasing William Peterson can free up $7 million more. You can be over the cap in the preseason, but you need to get under by the start of the year. We'll see if he becomes a cap casualty after the draft. We're still scheduled to select 14th overall. That deep in the draft, I doubt we'll be able to find a decent running back. There are 5 that will be selected above us. 5 defensive ends are projected to go as well. We don't need a quarterback. Offensive tackle might be our best bet. Day 1 of the combine, I scouted 3 players that may be there at 14. 2 defensive ends and a running back. Looks like any running back that late won't be worth the selection. Quinn seems like an average defensive end, but Williamson, the guy projected to go to us, seems like he'll be a monster pass rusher. I did scout 2 more players. Webb looks much better than Valdez at running back. He's an option with Barber getting older. We could also use a tackle, but Miller doesn't look like a first round talent. I think I made my decision. Let's go to the NFL draft. My selection was a toss-up between Williamson and Webb. I went with Williamson. Michael Strahan dominated last season, but nobody else on the line could get more than 5 sacks. Maybe Williamson can develop behind him and Umanura, then replace Strahan when he retires. In the second round, I tried to fill the desperate need at inside linebacker. Adrian Lynch is already the best player at at the position, don't be surprised if we start him right away. He's an okay tackler, but a much better pass rusher. I'm sure we can utilize his strengths. In the 3rd round, I went cornerback. I know we signed Smoot, but this selection was more of a contingency plan if we don't have enough money to keep Peterson. This player can replace him on a much cheaper contract. In the 4th round, I selected a free safety. This was a different approach in the draft than I normally take. I drafted players who can take over positions that are occupied by older players on contract years. This is Stoutmire's replacement. In the 5th round, I selected a center. The depth behind Sean O'Hara is bad, but I wasn't expecting Peter Sanchez to be this good. The plan was for him to sit, learn, then take his spot on a cheaper contract. Him starting works too. In the 6th round, I selected a quarterback. There were 2 other quarterbacks that were projected to be better than Josh Bowen, but I selected him because of his speed. If a backup comes in, he better be able to move. In the 7th round, I selected a strong safety. This was purely to fill out the depth chart. We had no one behind Sean Williams at the spot. At least now we have a younger player who can develop behind him, maybe get some reps. After signing all the rookies, we're now $2 million over the cap. Time to make some cuts. We don't need Jamar Taylor at wide receiver with Plexico on the roster. He's not going to see the field. He gone. Carson Dock was the lowest rated player and 4th best center. He gone. Martin Chase was the 5th best defensive tackle. He's also going into his 8th year. He gone. With Williamson on the team, that made the 11-year pro Washington expendable. He gone. All those releases got us under the cap with $410,000 left. We might need that money to fill in some of the injuries that happened during the preseason. Strahan is listed to miss the season opener. Soybert will be out for 3 weeks with a broken foot, while Womack will be out for a month. Who won't be out? Our newest addition to the team, Plexico Burris, an elite player that should help our young quarterback get even better. His numbers don't stand out for the past 2 seasons, but even with that production, he would have been our best receiver last season. Jeremy Shockey was the leading receiver last year. You have to think that he'll be getting more targets this season. His overall did increase by 2 points, but he had a weird development. His catching and route running improved, but he became slower and less agile. He's no longer leading the elite group of players as he shares it with Shockey, but I think we all saw this coming. Mr. Good Morning America, Michael Strahan, has regressed. He's going into his 13th year in the league, had 18 sacks last season. Even with the regression, he's still better than most, if not all defensive ends in the NFL, and they know it. It looks to have paid off having Peyton's younger brother start over the future Hall of Famer Kurt Warner. This is a position that we won't have to worry about for the next 3 years. Even the backup behind him, Bowen, was a better option than Palmer or any of the other free agents I wanted. Tiki Barber will be going into the final year of his contract next year. The backups behind him aren't very good. This is a position that we need to address in the draft next year. Was it a mistake not to bring back Ron Dane? Last season, Jim Finn carried the ball as much as Ron Dane did. That's more than I would like for a lead blocker. He did improve, but will it show in the stats at the end of the year? I knew there was going to be a regression at receiver with well-dressed Amani, Toomer, and Hilliard. I didn't expect that much. 4 points to Toomer, 3 to Hilliard. I expect Toomer to remain in the 80s next season, but it might be time to move on from Hilliard. On the bright side, Carter improved. We're going to have a choice next year, Schenko or Rivers. I choose neither, but if one of the two want to come back on a cheap contract, I'm not opposed. We hit it big in the 5th round with Peter Sanchez. He's the starter at center. Sean O'Hara, who was a starter last year, will be his backup. Next season will be his contract year. He might not finish his contract in New York. Zoidberg is currently injured. David Deal will be starting in his place until he returns. He improved by 5 points. Snee, the other starter, also improved by 2 points. There's a chance that Zoidberg doesn't finish his contract here with the way Deal has improved. We'll have to wait and see. There is no change to the starters at tackle, Pettigrew and Allen. There's a very good chance next year we use a first on a tackle, have him sit behind those two, and learn before taking over. Moving on to the defensive side, both Baskin Brian Robbins and William Joseph hardly improved. They're both under long contracts, Robbins on the more expensive one, another position that will be looked at in the next offseason. After further review, it looks like we nailed our first round pick, Noah Williamson. I can't remember if I ever had a 10-point increase for a rookie after the preseason. Human also improved. I'm going to start him over the rookie. I know, it's stupid, but with Strahan's injury, he'll still get some reps this week. I was wondering if Green was being overpaid. With the addition of Claiborne this offseason, I've come to the conclusion that he's being overpaid. But as long as he continues to improve and plays up to that contract, that's fine. It looks like we nailed our second round pick too. Remember, this was a time before fixed rookie contracts, which means Lynch is betting on himself, only asking for a 2-year deal. I think he's only going to get better. I should have moved on from Peterson when I had the chance. Instead, I held on, hoping that he would be more valuable after a serious injury last season. That was my bad. On the bright side, we have plenty of other players that leapfrogged over him. Is that a bright side? Nailing our third round pick. Now that's a bright side. Sean Williams broke his frickin' neck, and he only lost 1 overall point. Perk Williams is going to terrorize the league this year. We also have a decent backup. I'd rather not see him ever touch the field, but for a 7th round pick, it's not bad. Going into his 9th year in the league, and Stoutmire is still improving. That's great, but he is on a contract year, and the hope is that Gardner will take his place next year. But like Lynch, he wanted a 2-year deal, and I guess we'll find out quickly if he's the future at the spot. Last season, Matt Bryant was not very good. Kicked 24 times last year, made 15. I hate to break it to you, but that's not good. I figured even a scrub like France could reproduce those numbers. It seemed like a fun idea to bring back Jeff Fiegels and never let him retire, mark it off of him, and sell Fiegels Never Say Retire shirts, but I should have just let him retire. I'm committed at this point. The season is underway, week 1 against the Bears. Season and home opener. Let's see if they can start the year hot. We skip to the 4th, Giants ball, and well-dressed Amani Toomer with an 80-yard reception for the lead. Did I forget to mention that Warner is the quarterback for Chicago? Warner to Johnson, 62 yards to tie it at 17. Final 3 minutes, Chicago's ball, 17-yard pass to Terrell, then 17 to Justin Gage. Then New York gets the ball back, going 3 and out. France misses his 3rd kick on the day. Chicago, 12 yards to Berrien, 3rd and 4, 6 yards to Vargas. And they're marching on him, 12 yards to Gage, then 14, capped off with an 18-yard touchdown pass. The first game of the year, and Peyton's younger brother throws an interception on the final drive. Chicago did run up the score, finishing it 30-17. Warner with a successful revenge game. France missing 3 kicks that could have changed the momentum. What a week. It wouldn't be a rebuild series if we stayed healthy. Finn's out for 2 weeks with a bruised hip. Deal's probable this week, which leaves us with 1 healthy guard. I ended up offering Peterson in a 3rd round pick for 1. Trust me, nobody wanted Peterson. I had to add the 3rd to get any value. Basically, Brock Osweiler. The Buccaneers were willing to part with Cozy Coleman. I think he'll be solid depth for the team if we need him to come in and play. Welcome to New York? Well, technically it's Jersey. We also signed a fullback, Curtis Fowler. He'll be filling in until Finn returns. We also let go of France. He's terrible. I went and signed the only free agent kicker available, Doug Bryan. Why is he always available? It was a busy first week for us, but now the mindset is week 2 against the Green Bay Packers. The final 2 minutes of the game, Giants ball. Last week, Peyton's younger brother threw a pick to end the game. This week, he connects 81 yards to Plaxico Burress for the lead. Now can the defense stop the Packers? 10 yards to Kane, 19 to Ferguson. Incomplete on 1st, incomplete on 2nd, incomplete on 3rd, and on 4th, 11 yards to Ferguson. Sacked on the new set of downs, 10 yards to Driver, incomplete on 3rd, and on 4th, incomplete. The Giants made the stop. They got their first win of the season against the Favre-less Packers thanks to a big play from Plaxico Burress. You guessed it, more injuries this week. Umanura will be out with a pulled muscle, and at this point I'm just going to keep the rookie Williamson in as the starter, while Perk Williams is back on the injury report, this time for a broken frickin' shoulder. Only 3 weeks. Peak perkiness. We have an early division matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles this season. A win will give us the lead against them. Can we be the top guys? In the fourth quarter, Giants ball, 16 yards to Carter, 11 to Toomer. They are down 9-6, slowly marching their way but stalling out in field goal range. Doug Bryan misses this one that would have tied it. Philly has a chance to put the game away. 3rd and 2, 9 to Mitchells, 13 to Mills. Easily moving on this defense. 3rd and 4, 13 to Mitchell for another first. Then suddenly, the Giants have the ball back. Can Peyton's younger brother be like Kim Kardashian and make a comeback? Nope. Philly added insult to injury with a final FU field goal. It looks like Peyton's younger brother isn't good enough to play with the big boys. Look at the adjective. Play. On a positive note, the team is looking much healthier on the injury report. Must be the keto diet. We do have an early bye week this season, which threw a wrench in my plans since the trade deadline is at week 6. If we had a bad start to the year, I was going to trade away players. Problem is, we'll only have 4 weeks to see if this team is bad. A loss against Kansas City could decide the fate of our future. We start this one in the final 3 minutes. Chiefs down by touchdown on 3rd and 3. Richardson gets them 5 on the ground. Then on 3rd and 8, Green finds Morden for 17. Penalty gets them to midfield. 14 yards to Gonzalez. 2 straight incompletions. Then on 3rd and 10, they get 11 to Clark. Then 16 to Morden. 8 more. Down to the 1 yard line. Penalty by the Giants. Incomplete on 2nd down. And on 3rd down, Green finds Gonzalez to tie it up at 17. Can Peyton's younger brother pull off the game-winning drive for the 2nd time this year? 1st down, 9 to Carter. Then a 53-yard chunk play to Tiki Barber. 11 to Burris. 10 seconds left after the short pass. Plexico Burris seals the win for the Giants. Had the Giants not won this game, there would have been a lot of players being traded away due to their contracts. This win saved them. We are also completely healthy for the first time in this series. No one is on the injury report. Watch out, St. Louis, because we're at 100% and the NFL isn't ready for us, and neither are you. In the final 3 minutes, Giants up 17-3, 1 play, 73 yards, and it's a game again. All the Giants need to do is run the clock. They convert 1 3rd down, but can't convert the 2nd. Now it's the defense's turn to win the game. 13 yards to Bruce. 12 to Bruce, 1 yard to Steven Jackson, incomplete on 2nd down, incomplete on 3rd down, and on 4th down, 3 yards to Falk. The defense wins the game. For the first time in this series, the Giants have a winning record, but they're undefeated when they're fully healthy. And it's going to stay like that for the rest of the season with William Joseph out for the year. A fractured forearm will force him onto the IR. I did sign a replacement player, Jordan Watts. Originally, I wasn't going to have him start, but after looking at Norman Hand and realizing he's a career backup, I decided to start Watts instead. He's a rookie, but has more upside to him than Hand. Hopefully that doesn't affect the defense too much, as we'll be taking on the Denver Broncos. Remember when the team was 1-2 and I talked about trading everyone? Boy, am I glad I didn't do that. Trust the process. This was a statement game for us. We've won the past 3 games. This week will be against the Lions. We'll start near the end of the 3rd. Giants ball, 15 yards to Hilliard, 12 to Burris. 2 straight incompletions. On 3rd down, Tiki Barber runs up the middle for 17. Then 5 on a reception. The backup, Womack, takes it 19 yards into the red zone. After a pair of runs, 3rd down, Barber gets them down to the 1, capped off by a Womack touchdown. They now have the lead in the 4th. Can the defense make the stop? Jones with 12 yards and 2 carries. Harrington scrambles for 5. Incomplete pass on 3rd, and they punt. Giants can run the clock out. 3rd and 2, Barber gets 4. 3rd and 3, Barber gets 5. 3rd and 5, Barber gets 4. But it was enough to run the clock. they've earned their 4th straight win and their 5th one of the year. The 2 losses came when Peyton's younger brother couldn't get it done, but he's getting it done now. This game is going to be the halfway point of our season. Can the Giants beat the Raiders to go 6-2? We start this one in the middle of the 3rd. Kerry Collins finds Hetherington, 86 yards to tie it up at 14. Giants next possession, 81 yards to well-dressed Amani Toomer for the lead again. 2 big plays. Raiders looking to strike back, but picked off by Cousin. 3 plays capped off by a Finn touchdown run. Later in the 3rd, Giants ball, but a 3-and-out forces them to punt, but it's blocked. Raiders in good field position to start the 4th. Didn't take long for them to pound the ground, and Zero Way will find his way in for a touchdown. Raiders would have it again with over 3 minutes to go on 3rd and 2. Zero Way gets enough. Allen with a 12-yard reception. Then Gibson for 19. It's now 3rd and 4. Troy eating ham and laying bricks with 6 on the run. Rice for the 1st down, then 29 yards to tie the game up with under 2 minutes to go. Giants at risk to go 3-and-out. Toomer gets a 1st on 3rd, 11 to Hilliard, then 13, then another 8. Finn gets them a 1st down. Burris with 10 to get into the red zone. Then Mr. Carter finishes the drive with a 14-yard touchdown reception. There's still plenty of time for the Raiders to tie it up. On 3rd down, Will Allen intercepts Kerry Collins and returns it to the house. That's how this game will end, and the Giants squad suddenly becomes one of the most dangerous teams in the NFL. They're now 6-2 at the halfway point of the season. It took half a season, but we finally have our 2nd divisional matchup, and it'll be against Washington. They blew us out last season in our first meeting, but this year we're running into them hot. On balance, off balance, doesn't matter to them, they still kicked our butts. We were cooking going into the game, winning the last 5, but it looks like Washington is one of those teams that will always have our number at least once a year. We also have a new member on the injury report. Tim Carter is questionable with a hairline fracture. Isn't it odd that our first loss happens when Carter gets hurt? Must be a coincidence. We'll continue with the division games. Dallas Cowboys will be next. They're still sitting at the bottom of the NFC East. The final 4 minutes, Cowboys just shortened the lead to 5 points. They give up a 1st down on a penalty. Toomer with 7 yards, Barber with 6 to get across midfield, then another 6. Second penalty by Dallas to extend the drive. A few plays later, 3rd and 2, Toomer with 3 for the 1st. Drive then stalls out, Bryan to make it an 8-point game. No good. Cowboys have the chance to take the lead. 2 straight incompletions, and on 3rd down, 4 yards to Witten. On 4th, they punt it with 2 minutes to go, and they never got it back.
Cowboys, Giants. Tiki Barber is always a threat. They're at the 1-yard line, and touchdown.
In a game that was probably closer than it should have been, the Giants come away with their 7th win of the year, matching their total from last year. There's still 6 games to go. We do add another player to the injury report. A broken hand for Hilliard will be doubtful for next week. I'm sure it's not important for a receiver to have 2 functioning hands, right? This will be the first time we'll be crossing paths with the Chargers. Their franchise quarterback Phillip Rivers going head-to-head with Peyton's younger brother. Final 2 minutes of the game, down by a touchdown, Giants ball. Incomplete on 1st down, incomplete on 2nd, incomplete on 3rd. 17 yards to Barber for the 1st, then 7 to Barber, 2 up the middle, then 9 after a fumble by Barber recovered by Toomer. 12 to one-handed Hilliard, then they lost the ball.
Chargers, Giants. Phillip Rivers is in the backfield. The line of scrimmage is the 17-yard line. Swings out to the left. A very quick pass. Shakes one tackle. Pulls over another one. Beautiful touchdown.
I can't put too much blame on Peyton's younger brother here. He found a way to keep the drive alive, but a fumble ended their chances of a non-losing record this week. The season doesn't get any easier as we have our divisional rematch against the Philadelphia Eagles. A win will put us a game back from the division lead. I think I was right when I said Peyton's younger brother wasn't good enough to play with the big boys. Also, play is not an adjective, it's a verb. We're now in the final month of games, potential playoff elimination match against the New Orleans Saints. It's the final 3 minutes, games all tied up at 24. Saints ball and they're marching. Giants can't slow them down. They do force a 3rd and 1. Hold up a minute. I'm forgetting how we got here. The Giants were up 24-7 going into the half. The Saints opened their first drive in the second with a McAllister 54-yard touchdown. Then they would block a Giants punt and work their way into the end zone, then force another punt, and they would tie the game up, all in the third quarter. The Giants have a chance to stop the collapse. They give up the first. Following play, 40 yards to Joe Horn for the lead. Plenty of time left. They've come back before. Can Peyton's younger brother do it again here? No. He throws an interception. They gave up a 24-7 lead at half. It was tied before the third quarter was over. Gave up 2 more touchdowns in the final 2 minutes. 31 points in the second half. This is not a playoff team. We're the number 6 seed for now, but I don't expect to stay there long. We had a 5-game win streak, but have gone 1-4 in our last 5 games. The only win coming against the Cowboys, and we have our rematch against them this week. It's the 4th quarter. Giants just scored and are up 28-10. Big return by Bickerstaff. Why pass ball when run do trick? There was a fumble, but Dallas recovered it, capped off by Jones to cut the lead down 28-17. Giants ball, they turn it over on the first play, but the defense holds on, forcing a field goal 28-20. Then the Cowboys recover the onside kick. Will there be 2 meltdowns in back-to-back weeks? Not on this drive at least. They forced them to punt and the Giants run out the clock. They earned a non-losing record this season, but boy was it close to being back-to-back collapses. Is this making you confident in the playoffs? Giants even moved up 1 spot to the number 5 seed, but it'll be a tight squeeze week to week with how close everyone is for the wild card. They'll also be without Toomer for 1 week. He's out with neck spasms. It looks like we're not the only ones who have been struggling the past few weeks. Washington comes into this week winning only 1 game since we last met. A Giants win would officially eliminate Washington from the playoffs.
Redskins, Giants. Eli Manning is barking signals at the 5-yard line. Always tough to move in there. His favorite target, the tight end. Boy, does he get open again. Touchdown.
The New York Giants have earned their first winning season in the series and eliminated Washington from the playoffs. They also clinched a playoff berth with that win, and since we're not in position to win the division and earn a bye week, I'm benching every starter to avoid an injury for our first ever playoff game, which means the final game of the year won't have too much of an impact for us. Either we're the 5th seed or 6th. It at least gives us a chance to see how good our depth is at every position against this 6-win Vikings team.
Giants, Vikings. Edgerrin James is in his own territory, would like to get his team out to the midfield stripe. Takes the pitch, goes off right tackle, bursts through the hole. Look at him go! The 20, the 10, touchdown!
As you can see, defense not very good. Offense wasn't terrible, but it doesn't matter. We'll be going into the postseason mostly healthy, William Joseph being the only player out. The wild card will begin in Seattle. We dropped down to the 6th spot. A win could have given us a revenge game against the Kurt Warner-led Chicago Bears. Peyton's younger brother looks to have had a sophomore slump. Even though he wasn't throwing interceptions on every game-winning drive, he still threw more than last year based on his quarterback rating. This was a better season. In the end, he did take the team from 7-9 to 9-6. Phillip Rivers, on the other hand, took his team from 5-11 to 8-8. They also beat us in the head-to-head. Why wasn't he this good when we had our series? The 7th loss for the team was from Josh Bowen. The rookie had a chance to showcase his talent on the final game of the year. He did exactly that. I'm confident enough to start him for a week or 2 if we have to. We didn't have 8,000-yard rusher this season, but if Barber played in the final game, he most likely would have. I didn't want to risk any injuries before the playoffs. He's the best running back we have on the roster, but regression is sinking in. We also didn't use him as much. We did use Jim Finn just as much. I'm not a fan of his usage, but he's getting better. Averaged a full yard more this season. His real strength is the run blocking. I said our running backs were bad. Womack proved that he is just as good as Ron Dane, who went off to Arizona. His stats the previous year are very similar. We made the right choice moving on from him. The regression of well-dressed Amani Toomer may have been greatly exaggerated. He led the team in receiving yards and touchdowns, had over 18 yards per reception. He still has something left in the tank. Plexico Burress also led in touchdowns with 7, tied with Toomer. It was a down year for him, but last season that would have been good enough to lead the team. He's making an impact. Even Ike Hilliard had a better season. It was slightly better, but overall he made the entire receiving group put up better numbers. The only person who didn't come out of it with better numbers, Jeremy Shockey. It was still a good season for the tight end, but with more options on offense, not everyone will see action. Though I am surprised that Tim Carter was able to put up strong numbers. He was bumped down to the number 4 receiver on the team, still managed to get 4 touchdowns and over 300 yards. We finally got our first 100 tackle performer in the series. It so happens to be the free agent signing, Chris Claiborne. Not as good of a season from the previous year, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, but he was a tackling machine. I'll take it. This year, the sacks were distributed a bit more, but Michael Strahan continues to lead. 16 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. Maybe he is regressing, but not by much. This is still better than what I've seen in my other series. He is getting up there, and we'll have to worry about retirement soon. Last year, we had no one over 5 sacks. The same again this year, but we had more than 4 with 1. The second-round rookie Adrian Lynch looks to be exactly what we needed in this defense. 4.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 interceptions. He only signed a 2-year deal. He also won Defensive Rookie of the Year. We're gonna have to pay the man. Noah Williamson was not supposed to start this season. Then Yomanura got injured. Sometimes the best ability is availability, and Williamson never lost the job after that. Outperformed Yomanura's first year in the series with 4 sacks compared to 1. Though, in his limited time on the field, Yomanura seemed to be more efficient, doubling his sacks to 2. The leader in interceptions this year was the Love Boat. He had a down year last season, but he was back to feasting with 4 interceptions. To him, that's just a regular run through the okra patch. There was a dip for Will Allen entering the season, and it shows that he may have lost a step, but still managing to come away with 2 interceptions and 3 sacks. I do feel a bit more optimistic about Carroll Gardner. He is set to take over Stoutmeier's spot next season. In his limited role, he was able to get a sack and an interception. Whenever I need a cheap, reliable kicker, Doug Bryan is always there for me. I should have never put my trust in a player named after a country. It's one of the reasons why I don't trust America Ferrera. To make matters worse, I could have re-signed Matt Bryant, who went on to Kansas City. He also put up one of his best seasons. I'm a bit salty. After having that stellar season last year, Jeff Fiegel shows that Father Time is unbeaten, putting up a significantly worse season in comparison. It was still good, but it was a big drop-off. The MVP this season was Air McNair. It's interesting to see another mobile quarterback win the award this year. Over 4,000 yards passing and only 7 interceptions. I absolutely agree that he deserves this award, and this time he's not sharing it. The Offensive Player of the Year was Brett Favre. For the 2nd straight year, a Bengal quarterback won the award. They still have Kitna and Palmer, by the way. Defensive Player of the Year was Adam Archuleta. He had 12 interceptions this season. If anyone is an Archuleta fan, can you tell me why he's so highly rated? The Offensive Rookie of the Year was Guadalupe Waters. He played 15 games this season for the Bears. 15. The one he didn't play, Kurt Warner's revenge game. The rushing title went to Corey Dillon. He got injured in the final game of the year, which is why you sit players before the playoffs. Still a stellar season. 1,700 yards is really impressive. That'll be it for this video. We're already in the playoffs. This must be a new record for any of my series. We'll be off to Seattle to take on the Seahawks in a wild card matchup. I'll see you all there.